for joining me today. I'm Colleen Klimczak. I'm an organizational and productivity coach and a certified professional organizer. I own Peace of Mind Professional Organizing, LLC. Since 2003, I've been helping my clients live better lives through organizing and organizational and productivity coaching. I support my clients and my community with coaching, in-person and virtual organizing, my weekly podcast called Your Organized Life with Colleen Klimczak, a free weekly virtual productivity session called Finish Line Friday, a free weekly email newsletter, and regular content on Facebook and Instagram. I also offer presentations and professional development to groups and companies. And coming soon, I will be launching a membership circle to support my community with even more coaching and productivity content. Want to finish strong with me this week? Join me for Finish Line Friday every Friday morning at 9 a.m. Central for a 2-hour productivity session. Drop me an email at colleen@peaceofmindpo.com or follow the Zoom room link on my Instagram or Facebook page. So welcome to episode 67 of Your Organized Life. And I'm just putting it out there before I dive into today's content. If you want more content that I have written, we're going to talk about meal planning today. And I also have a lot of content sitting on my website, peaceofmindpo.com, about just that. So if you need to know more, there's all sorts of content out there that you are welcome to check out as well. So last week we got started on meal planning by asking 2 questions. What does healthy mean to you? And what are your meal planning goals? So I hope you've had some time to think about your answers to those questions. With answering those questions, you have gained some awareness for and about yourself. And awareness is the first step for progress. I know meal planning may sound like a lot of change and a lot of work, but it is easier than you think, especially to get started. I am not here to tell you what or how or when to eat. Those are your personal choices. What I am here to say is that meal planning can help support your intentions and achieve your goals, whatever they may be. So as we get started with the how-to for meal planning, let me suggest that we start with what we know. So what do you know? Let me tell you, you know more than you think you do. First of all, you know you. You know what healthy means to you, and you know your goals. You know your preferences, your allergies, your schedule, your finances, and your family situation, and who else you need to factor in to your meal plans. So let's get to it, right? Starting with what we know, make a list of your favorites. I don't know about you, but sometimes coming up with ideas for what we want to eat is the hardest part of meal planning for me. It's not checking inventory or grocery shopping or even cooking. It's the ideas that stump me. So to circumvent that trouble, I have a list on the inside of my cabinet door of 30 of my family's favorite meals. So what are your favorite meals or your family's favorite meals? And favorite doesn't have to mean complicated. It just means meals I know that we will eat. So for us, items included on that list are chicken enchiladas, chicken pie, chicken soup with noodles or with rice, chicken breasts. They are tacos, ground beef or chicken, pork roast, pork chops, smoked sausage gumbo, andouille sausage and grits, Polish sausage and pierogi, BLTs. There is a point to this list, I promise. Ham and sweet potatoes, beef stew, meatloaf, chili, burgers, pot roast, fish or shrimp, and breakfast for dinner. That was 20 ideas. 20, right? So for us, that's 20 ideas. And now consider that these days I make a big batch of 2 or 3 meals once a week and then reheat them with veggies or a salad. So with those simple 20 ideas, I have like 6 to 7 weeks of planning if I wanted new ideas every week. And I have to say that knowing that I have ideas for more than a month feels pretty great. So if you want to use meal planning to make changes and therefore are looking at new and different recipes, the same strategies hold true. So start with a list of recipes that you like to try or foods that you want to incorporate into your plan. Try a new idea or new food every week. And once you find winners, add them to your favorites list. So starting with what you know means starting with your favorites. The next 2 start with what you know steps are related. We look at the schedule and we look at the inventory. So we look back at the schedule, we match things up, right? So those 2 steps are related. So the 2 steps are in starting with what we know is to start with what we have, right? So what our inventory is, and then start with our schedule. Okay. So those two things, like I said, are related. So I suggest taking an inventory of what food you already own. What is in the fridge and the freezer and the cabinets? For example, 2 days ago on Saturday morning, I was getting ready to batch cook that evening for a few days. So I checked the freezer for what proteins we have on hand and I planned accordingly. And for us, that meant chicken enchiladas and some lovely frozen, fully cooked lemon chicken. So the great thing about having a list of favorite meals and recipes is that I tend to have the ingredients for those items that we eat regularly, often already on hand. So the chicken enchiladas used homemade enchilada sauce, diced chicken, canned green chilies. The recipe called for canned black beans, but I didn't have those. So I used red kidney beans because that's what was in the cabinet, tortillas, and shredded cheddar cheese. All of those things I have on hand because they accomplish one of our favorite recipes, right? Now, I also need to do more batch cooking later this week. And as I planned my batches for Saturday, I also looked ahead at what else we might want to eat coming up, and I added those items to my grocery list. So I take advantage, I take a look at what we have and what we want going forward, and I match those two things up. A suggestion, too, that I will plant here is that as you start this process for yourself, now would be a great time to pantry shop. And what that means is to review your foods, checking for expiration dates and making sure that everything is safe, and then incorporate what you have on hand into your meal plan for the next week or two. It's a great way to clear clutter in the cabinets and also to save some money by not grocery shopping this week. So once we know what we have, next, take a look at your schedule for the next 7 days, or 5, or whatever works for you. So consider too if you need to plan for breakfast, lunch, and dinner each day, or maybe just 2 meals, or even just 1. When my sons were little, we meal planned just for dinner. Breakfast and lunch were easy and basic, and dinner was a little more complicated. And now that I cook typically for just my husband and myself, our needs have changed again. I still don't plan for breakfast, but I do factor in extra leftovers because we tend to eat lunch at home more often with remote work. I have a friend who homeschools her children, and she plans for all 3 meals every day because that makes her week flow more smoothly. So really, the point is it's up to you. Perhaps you don't need that much detail. It's your choice. Also, when you're looking at your schedule, note the days that either don't need a meal or perhaps need a special one. So for example, my college student comes home on Friday for his spring break. And so I am guessing that there will be pizza from our favorite local pizza place, Rosangela's, for dinner. So I do not need to cook that night. So before you say, no way, Colleen, meal planning is way too much work, or before you decide that you have to make huge changes, which, by the way, are really difficult to implement and maintain, let's start with what we know. We know ourselves, we know our favorites, we know our inventory, and we know our schedule. Start with what's in front of you. Start with what you know. Just start. Supporting you around personal progress is what productivity coaching is all about. If it's time to invest in yourself and explore coaching for organizing and productivity, I would love to hear from you. Drop me a line via email at colleen@peaceofmindpo.com or message me through any of my social media platforms like Facebook, Instagram, or LinkedIn. Thanks so much, and I will talk to you next week.